so here we are with the Mabco 302 roller engine again. That was a crate engine that I tore down and did a review kind of to check their work, and they did pretty good, but I've been pretty busy here and I haven't been able to put it back together, so I got everything uncovered again today, and I'm gonna reassemble this thing. But when I was making my review video, I was going over the crank and I pointed out the crank wear, and then someone come forward and mentioned using a crank sleeve, and I've never honestly heard of this, so new to me. I don't know everything, nor do I claim to. So anyway, I did some poking around and I got this little mini sleeve here, and today we're going to go ahead and put this on our crankshaft so that we don't have a leaking rear main seal. So this will go into a manual car on the autocross, high RPM shifting. It wouldn't be very conducive to have oil leaking and getting on all my clutch equipment. So anyway, we're going to get this thing put on today and should be good. Pretty neat product. Alright, so we're getting this thing knocked on here, and you can buy drivers for these, but that's kind of expensive. So I got a piece of wood here and I'm just tapping around it with a rubber mallet and slowly drawing it in, making sure I'm even. At a point, I'll get down here to this area around the pilot bearing, but I should be low enough where I can, strategically tap this thing on. So I'm going pretty well. I'm going to get this thing the rest of the way on there and then we'll check back. Alright, she went on pretty easy and looks pretty good. I actually bought two of them because I've never put one on before, and I like having drivers for stuff like this, and I didn't have a driver, so I thought I might mangle one up pretty good. But the first one went on real well. A little patience goes a long way. I want to make mention that if one of these sides has a beveled edge and that side needs to face the outside of the crank, there's a 45-degree chamfer on your crank. You want to make sure that you do have this, or else you'll have trouble getting this guided on. But my crank was good in that regard, and she slid right on. She goes down and butts right up to that lip. But like I said, patience goes a long way. Once you get past the point of where you can tap it onto the center, where you get to this pilot bearing area, what I went ahead and did is, I just moved it around. It's put her on like this, hit here, I kind of went in like a star pattern around it. I tried not to hit on the same side. Just, use a little common sense, and you tap it, really good and light, like literally that hard, and you move around and she slides right on. I mean, this is paper thin stuff, so you don't want to go bashing on it. So give her a few good taps and a little bit of patience there. It probably took me 8 minutes to get it on, but it's on there nice and square. We didn't bend it up, and I'm totally confident it's going to seal. So I guess that's it. And from this point on, might as well show how to install the one-piece rear main seal in our engine. But pretty much that does it for the crank sleeve. So onto the rear main seal. Alright, so some of the preparation here to get the rear main seal on right. We've cleaned up our surfaces with brake clean on a rag and wiped this all down. And we got assembly lube on all our bearings and on our bearing caps as well. We've also cleaned this mating surface, so it's completely clean and free of any solvents. We've wiped down the crank, so it's clean. Again, we got oil on the bearing side, so we'll be fine. No reason to have just an excessive amount on there. We got our torque wrench out, and it's set to 35 foot-pounds, which will be our initial round of torque. And we have our rear main seal slid on here, so I oiled the inside up, slid it on, then I went around the outside here with brake clean and cleaned it all up. Obviously I sprayed on a rag first, then wiped the rag around. So anyway, we got this slid on here, and what we're going to go ahead and do is take some gasket sealer, and we're going to go around the outside of this. Now, not everyone does this, but this is a spot that it can over time start to seep oil. You get some thermal expansion. I live in Iowa, so gets really hot and really cold, and I've seen these leak before. So, you know, and just if they're built not to spec, and this is Mabco's rear main seal. If it was a Felpro, completely trust it, but I have no idea what brand this is. So for any irregularities and stuff, we're just going to go ahead and put a very light coat of gasket sealer on the outside of this thing, and then we'll drop it in there. All right, so here she is. The crank's back in her home. So once you get this landed, you want to go around here kind of with your thumb and push in, make sure it's all the way seated. So it's pretty obvious if it's not. So we got this in here. You can see the very, very light coat of gasket sealer on the top here. Obviously you don't want that squishing out and getting on any of your surfaces. So anyway, we're going to get the main caps put on here. Again, set the main cap on, make sure everything's seated properly, and get to torquing this thing down. All right, got all the main caps on here, and notice that I have a glob of assembly lube in there, and that's so our threads are good and lubed up, and we can get proper and accurate torque. You know, we don't have any metal to metal drag. So again, we're gonna get everything run down here and keep moving through. All right, so you see that I got the rear main cap pulled down so it's somewhat snug, but it's obviously not all the way tight. And this is a good opportunity to go around with your thumbs and push it all the way back against the seat, because at this point there's enough drag where you can push it in, but the way the gasket catches, it's got little ridges and it'll hold it in to a degree. So you get it just snug enough, and you see that we have this rear main seal fully seated on here. So now we can go ahead and torque everything down. All right, so that pretty much does it. The rear main seal is in there and seated and flush. The crank sleeve's in there, it's not distorted, so we should have a good seal again. Shouldn't have a leaky rear main seal on this engine. We got all the main caps torqued down, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to work through getting this engine put back together, and hopefully we got it in a car pretty soon. So anyway, that's pretty much the end of this. You know, I've made a lot of YouTube videos over the years of 302 walkthrough builds, so I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy this one and do it off camera. But anyway, if you want to check some of those out, they're all over my channel. They're step-by-step, painfully detailed walkthroughs of the small block Ford. I got a budget build, a performance build, so it's all on there. You know, if you're curious about how to do things, have some questions about things, either drop a comment or check those out. They're pretty darn comprehensive. So anyway, that pretty much does it for the crank sleeve and rear main seal install.